She had earned a sterling reputation among progressives as an activist on the streets of South Los Angeles, but now Karen Bass was the new Speaker to the State Assembly, and California was in the midst of a budget crisis. It was 2009, the height of the Great Recession. Bass was responsible for negotiating tens of billions of dollars in cuts to some of the very social programs she had pledged to protect. The whole reason I went up there was to expand and strengthen programs, not cut them. I had to cut $40 billion, she recalled in an interview. It was devastating to me. But I fought to cut because the alternative was to dismantle programs altogether. The difficult decisions she made during that period, which drew admiration from colleagues on both sides of the aisle, help explain the five-term Congresswoman's quiet rise in the ranks in Congress and the intensifying speculation about her future as a potential running mate for presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. As Biden nears a decision about his vice presidential pick, Bass's boosters see in her someone whose activism in Los Angeles in the 1990s could bring progressive credibility to the ticket during a fresh wave of racial unrest in the country. She could also help assuage liberal skeptics who have been critical of Biden's now controversial efforts on criminal justice reform in the 1990s. She has already made history once as the first black woman in the United States to rise to the role of Assembly Speaker in any state. Bass is relatively unknown compared with the others on Biden's shortlist and has largely been spared the spotlight, and vetting, of a national political campaign. Biden's eventual running mate, particularly if it is a black woman, will undoubtedly attract immediate, harsh scrutiny, entering a campaign that has been marked by aggressive personal attacks and misinformation. Her leadership in Sacramento during the Great Recession in particular provides a window into how she has balanced her ideological commitments against the raw needs of governing in crisis, a test that carries particular relevance now amid economic upheaval, a global pandemic and heightened racial tensions. Her approach in Sacramento, say those who worked with her at the time, was to create a sense of shared responsibility, outwork the critics and find a way to agree. In 2 years she would leave Sacramento and head to Washington as a congresswoman, where she is now chair of the Congressional Black Caucus and has been discussed as a possible future Speaker of the House. In many ways, the skills that have made Bass an effective politician are those she honed as a community organizer. The 1980s and 90s were an especially fraught time in South Los Angeles. The crack epidemic, mass poverty and urban blight were tearing at the fabric of the community. Many felt government was not only unequipped but also uninterested in finding solutions.